Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to take you through the steps of hosting your own server. Now if you wish to install your web applications, your Alexa webhooks, databases, websites and your backend server all at one place, then this video guide is for you. There could be several reasons why you would like to do that. The reason for me was to have all my services at one place where I can control them as per my need and not to be worried about multiple subscriptions associated with various online platforms. To have your own server, you just need to be worried about two subscriptions, the one for the VPS provider and the other one for the domain. Web server in the hosting world is also known as the dynamic server. These servers helps you host your web application and the backend applications along with the other complementary services like MQTT brokers, databases, etc. You can also have your blogs and websites running on the same server. Now it is important to understand that the dynamic server can be deployed either on a cloud hosted dedicated machine, which is basically the costliest option, and the reason for that is that you get access to unshared resources. Another cheaper alternative to this is hosting your services on a VPS, which basically stands for virtual private server. There are basically two kinds of VPS, the managed VPS and the unmanaged VPS. Managed VPS do provide you with a name server and several other features right out of the box. However, with the unmanaged ones, you're pretty much left on your own for the services installation and the configuration. But then the cost of the unmanaged ones is pretty low, almost 1/10 of the cost of the managed ones. So in most of the cases, an unmanaged VPS should work fine for our hosting needs. Now when I planned to host my own server, I really had no clue how to go about it, and I kinda struggled to understand the various bits I needed to get my server up and running. Now this guide will help you with that process. I will also share the details about the domain and the hosting providers and my experiences so far. Now before we proceed, let's understand what is a VPS and why do we need one. Now imagine you have a server application running on your local machine. Now let's say you would like to access your web application from a remote location. For that you might have to find a way to expose your local machine to the internet. Well, there are ways of doing it. However, doing this might expose your machine to cyber attacks. Also, the server should be up and running all the time, and that will probably add to the electricity bill and also to the maintenance cost of your machine. So it is always possible to run reverse proxy servers like Nginx, but this is not the best approach for a server which needs to be up and running all the time. Now the more appropriate and the cost effective way would be to buy a VPS. With a virtual private server, you get access to a cloud hosted virtual environment. In case of a VPS, you share the hardware resources inside the allocated virtual machine. Since you own the entire virtual machine, you are free to install the operating system of your choice and to even switch between the different flavors of the operating system. You can also install your required libraries and the services, and if you end up with bad configurations, you always have an option to reset your virtual machine. The common operating systems that are available with most of the virtual private servers are Ubuntu and the other flavors of Linux. It might be a little tricky to work with the terminal, but I recommend diving into the world of Linux so that you can keep your cost low and enjoy a fully customizable server at pretty low cost. Yes, there are Windows servers available, but as I said, the cost of the Windows server is much higher as compared to the Linux based server. So this was about the VPS. Now let me show you how you can buy a VPS from A2 Hosting. The process stays the same for the other providers as well. Now let us search for unmanaged VPS hosting. Over here you can see A2 Hosting. Click on this one. Over here you are presented with the very basic plan, which starts at $2.99 per month. If you want to have a look at the other plans available from A2 Hosting, click on compare plans. And you can see we have launch 1, launch 2, launch 4, and you can also see the specs of each and every plan over there. So we are planning to go ahead with the very basic plan, which gives you access to 1 GB of RAM, 25 GB of SSD storage, 1 core of virtual CPU, 0.5 terabyte, which is basically 512 GB of data transfer between the clients and the server, full root access and a money back guarantee. Now click on get launch 1. If you already own a domain, please enter that over here. Click on use this domain and it will verify the domain. Once it has verified it successfully, you will be presented with this payment page. Now to see the amount in Indian rupees, click on INR option. Now you can see that the currency has switched on to Indian rupees, and you will be presented with a drop down, which is an option for you to choose or to buy the VPS either for a month, for 12 months, 24 months, or basically 3 years. So I'll proceed with buying the VPS for 12 months as I can see I'm getting the best pricing out there. Now the next thing that you might want to select here is the server. Since we are in Asia, we will select Asia Singapore because that will have the least latency. Now from the list of operating systems, we will select Ubuntu 22.04. If you're not sure which Linux version you are looking for, then I believe Ubuntu is the best choice, and going with the latest version is recommended. If you're sure about your preferred Linux version apart from Ubuntu 22.04, then please go ahead with that. Then we might also need a control panel, and we'll use a web user, and over here we'll just give a web user as admin, and we give a password as admin123. Click on generate password, and it will say copy to clipboard and insert. So you can see that this is your new web user password. It's a little cryptic one, so keep a note of it. And then once you are done with all these steps, all you have to do is just click on continue, and you'll be presented with the payment page. Now this one important point that I feel is worth mentioning here is that you see something like a recurring amount. Now this recurring amount is way too much as compared to this initial amount. This is because this is a promotional amount, right? And going ahead, after 1 year, you will be charged at a rate of 9497, which is almost 10,000 rupees per year for owing the VPS. So let me explain one important point here. As per my calculation, if you buy the VPS for 12 months, 24 months or 36 months, towards the end of 3 years, the pricing or the amount that you incur per month is almost going to be the same. If you just want to play around or experiment around the VPS for a year, I would suggest going ahead with the 12 months pricing, with a 12 months tenure. If you need a VPS for a more serious use case and you don't want to keep renewing it every now and then I would suggest you can go ahead with the 36 months pricing. Now let me also give you a demonstration of buying a VPS from Hostinger. Hostinger has turned out to be my preferred VPS solution provider. The reason is their plans are much better, and they provide much better value for money, and they have much better configuration available in their beginners plan. So let's search for unmanaged VPS hosting once again. Click on the Hostinger option. Now if you see here, the very basic plan from Hostinger comes for 439 rupees per month. It still gives you one virtual CPU, but then the amount of RAM is almost 4 times the RAM amount from A2 hosting. The disk amount or the disk space is double of what you were offered by A2 hosting, and the bandwidth is almost 8 times the bandwidth that was provided by A2 hosting. Additional things that Hostinger provide is basically a free web panel, and basically a lot of options amongst the web panel that you would like to go ahead with. Now we'll go ahead with the KVM1 plan. Click on choose plan. Over here you can see that you can pay for 12 months or 24 months. Now as I already have informed you that doesn't matter you buy it for 12 or 24 months, the final monthly price is going to be the same. So you select the one that suits you best. I'll go ahead with the 12 months plan. Over here you fill all your personal details and click on submit secure payment. Now once you're done with the payment formalities, you might want to log in into your Hostinger account. Once you log in into your Hostinger account, you can see your VPS being listed over here, and you can also see the expiry date of the VPS. Now click on manage to get the details about the VPS. This is the IP address that we will be providing in the mapping of the new domain that we will see how to purchase next. You can see that the host name for your VPS is this. You can see the status of the VPS. Then you can go to the SSH access tab and you can see the IP address. This remains the same as the primary IP address, the username and the password. The default SSH port for the VPS that we buy from Hostinger is 22. Then and the thing is, you can go to the OS and panel section over here. You can click on operating systems. Now here there are a couple of options for you. Either you can reinstall the operating system if you feel like, if there's a bad configuration, and you can always do a reinstall. If you want, you can just go ahead and change your operating system from the one that is currently installed to some other version, let's say Ubuntu 22.4, 24.4, whatever it is. You can do that. So this was pretty much about buying a VPS from Hostinger and from A2 hosting. Now let's proceed and understand what basically is a domain, how to buy a domain, and then how to link the domain and the VPS that we have just purchased. So now we know that once we buy a VPS, we get an access to a shared virtual machine, and which can be accessed by means of an IP address. Now, using the IP address for most of our use cases is not very feasible and very user friendly, or developer friendly I should say. Now, to make addressing easier, what we need to do is we need to buy a domain and then map that domain to the IP address of the virtual machine or the VPS that we have purchased. Now, to help you understand it better, in a website address like https www.amazon.in, the phrase amazon.in is the domain name, which basically maps to the IP address of the Amazon server. Now, I'm sure all of you would agree that remembering amazon.in is much easier as compared to remembering its IP address. Now, this is one of the reasons why you need a domain. Now, also understand that domain helps you in promoting your brand. You can always buy a domain which basically matches your brand name. It also gives your users a sense of authenticity and a professional touch to your websites. Another very important reason for buying a domain name is that if you're planning to use your VPS for hosting a website or a web server, you would need the SSL certificates to be installed over there. Before you can create these SSL certificates, you need to have a very well-defined domain name available with you. Now, only once you have a proper domain name with SSL certificates installed on top of it, only then you can use your web server with standardized platforms like Azure, AWS, Google platform. Now, let us see how we can buy a new domain from a domain provider. I have purchased my domain from godaddies.com. I'm not sure about the cost benefit that you might get it buying it from any other provider, but my experience so far has been really awesome with godaddies.com. Just would like to share one experience because initially I ended up buying a misspelled domain name, and it was very easy for me to get my refund back within no time. So I would recommend buying a domain from godaddies.com if you are doing it for the first time, because they really have some nice refund policy. You can still buy it from any other provider because the steps of integrating the domain with your VPS remains the same. So now let's see how we can buy a domain from godaddies.com. Before that, let's assume that we want to launch a website that deals with fishes. I might want to call my website as nemothefish.com. Now, we might want to check the availability of this domain on godaddies.com. For that, go to godaddies.com. Over here, you search for the domain that you're looking for. I'm looking for nemothefish.com. I can see that I'm getting an exact match. So this is technically good news. If you want to see other options available for you, you can go down, you can just scroll down, you can see all the options that are listed over there as a domain name for you. Now you can also get the domain name as nemothefish.in, and then there are a few more domains like nemothefish.shop.co, and again the pricing might change based on what domain you are planning to buy. Before I proceed, let me help you understand what it means, getting the domain just for ₹1. So it says if you buy it for 3 years term, right, the first year you don't have to pay $12.99, you just have to pay ₹1. Okay, what it means is effectively you will be paying just for 2 years plus a rupee for a 3 years term. So if I click on next, $12.99 should be so the base price was $12.99. Okay, now if we just multiply it by 3 years, it should be $3,897, right? But we don't have to pay for 3 years if we're buying it for a 3 years tenure. All we need to do is we need to pay only for the 2 years, 2 initial years, and 1 more rupee, which is $2,599. Now if you see, this is the same amount that's getting reflected over here, right? So now once you're done with purchasing the domain, you might want to go to your GoDaddy's account. Inside your account, you have to click on My Products. Now on this particular dashboard, under the domains section, you can see the domain that you just have purchased, right? Now you click on the DNS option. On this page, under the DNS records tab, you can see the very first DNS record as type A, and in your case, if you have just purchased a new domain, the data would be showing as parked. So all that you have to do now is click on the edit button and change the value from parked to the IP address of the VPS that you just have purchased. In my case, this is the IP address of the VPS. I'll just copy it from here, go to my DNS management and just paste it here. Just do that, change the TTL from whatever default values were showing to 1 hour and just click on save. Once you're done with this, you might want to verify if your mapping is correct. Before you do that, just go to your command prompt and try pinging the IP address of your VPS. You can see you're getting a reply from the VPS. It means your VPS is up and running. Now once you have updated the IP address of the VPS in the DNS record of your domain name provider, you might have to wait for an hour or so before you can access it. Now to verify if your domain name is correctly mapped to the IP address of your VPS, all you need to do is, instead of pinging the IP address of your VPS, you just have to ping the domain name. Once you do this, and if the mapping is correct, you can see a reply from the same IP address, which is the IP address of your VPS. So this was pretty much about buying a VPS, a domain, and linking them together. In the next video, we'll see how you can log into your VPS and do the necessary software installation. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.